just to see if anyone can join us. What's up, guys? This is part two of the Leonis support. Oh my god, this is so jank. Sorry guys, I got the blue screen of death on the end of that question, so I got disconnected. For those of you that were in the room, you're likely not here now, but we didn't have much else to wrap things up. It was just some Q&A, so we'll give everyone a couple minutes here. Hopefully, some people see that we're back online. But just for the sake of those watching the video, post recording now, we'll keep the show going here and talk about some of the Q&A and one of the first ones here, because I think we were wrapped up with the card conversation. I don't know if we had more to add, but
yeah, I think we can move on.
yeah.
I think I'm not able to see the chat though, real quick, just a sidebar. I don't know if you have to click in the for the YouTube chat.
So I oh,
There it goes.
I see Crispy.
Looks like people
Yeah.
are starting to come back
Thank
in
you.
now.
Okay, there we go. Good
Sorry
lord.
about that.
Yeah, sorry. I can't type in the chat. Hold on. Can I view my own live channel? Uh we got the blue screen of death. I'm so sorry, guys. Can I type it in chat? Yeah.
Technical difficulties.
I think I can type on my own channel. Hold on, guys. For those of you watching the recording, sorry for the difficulties. Um all right. I don't know how many viewers I have though. I don't think it's very
It looks like people are starting to filter back in.
8 watching now. Okay, cool. All right. All right. They'll hopefully see this, but yeah, we did mostly finish that conversation around the vision card. I have nothing else to add. Anything else you want to talk about this for next level thoughts?
No, I think we can go on to the Q&A.
Cool. All right. And so yeah, a lot of this, fortunately, was the end of the segment. We were running close to the finish line anyway, but this is a little bit of a follow up from the chat last week, where these were comments that we weren't able to get to, and this is one that was submitted by KW, which is a great question. Just looking for guesses on the special New Year's unit, or at least the Christmas unit. I don't know if it's technically a New Year's unit. We did get the like Lunar New Year unit, but never like a New Year's unit. But
So I think what he means by that is the JP New Year's unit. So like that's when they've typically debuted like some big story units like Wingstern or King Mont in past years that we ended up getting a few months later, but it was technically the JP New Year's unit.
got it.
The the new Lucio and Astrius were a couple other examples that he put out there. So that's a good question, because I think that there's been some like story, like big story units that they've kind of have given new costumes to that we've seen in the game, like Adelard and like Moore, for example. So I was kind of thinking about them potentially, but when I think about them, they're just not on the same ilk as like some of the past ones they've done, like Mont and Stern and Lucio. So I feel like they look to like big name characters like to really make a splash. So for that, like I'm thinking maybe somebody that we haven't seen yet, or maybe that maybe we have seen, but um hasn't been released yet. So like Rosa Luna was somebody that came to mind. Or like maybe like a new version of Seymour or Varouche. Like those are
That's my
big,
guess.
like those two characters have been like really, big in the story as of late. So those were a couple that came to mind for me.
So yeah, that to me is where I see the similarities between many of these units, is that there's typically some kind of like lore impact of a deserved like new version of the unit. And right now, where we are in the story, obviously there's more to come, but Varouche and Seymour to a lesser extent as of late, but Varouche in particular has been getting the limelight for what he's doing with Garusa and accumulating the cursed blades. But even Seymour, by extension, has always kind of been doing that, working on Gilgamesh's side. And so I do wonder if one of them gets the spotlight. Varouche seems to have more momentum going into that, but obviously I don't know if he's got the same like main character syndrome that units like Lucio and Stern and Mon and Astros all have. I really think he's thought of that way. I don't really know if there's anyone else in the story though that also fits that like main character slot. I'd have to think a little bit more about it. At least those that are relevant in the plot line at the moment.
So Cecil in the chat mentions he thinks it's going to be the planned Venera release. I think we're going to see her before that, or at least not as part of that celebration, that New Year celebration. I think that she's like her assets have already gone into the game, so we may. I think that with these anniversaries, like fifth anniversary, four and a half, they've been doing 2 units, and it's we pretty much you can bank on it as kind of part of the full celebration. Like we got Helena, then we got Elds, um, and they've typically been releasing them in tandem like that for at least a couple of anniversaries now. So Venera, I think we're going to be seeing her in the next few weeks or couple of weeks.
Yeah, that'll be fun to think about though. I think I'd be more inclined to follow the storyline a little closer in the next coming weeks to see if it hints at it more. But yeah, I don't really know who's considered that main character as of now, other than who we've already talked about between Mont and all that crew. But yeah, we'll go on to the next one here. Oh, sorry, you have another thought too?
I was just going to say they did mention, I think in one of the live stream that they were going to be bringing back another Warriors of the Crystal story. So maybe they have that in the works.
I hope not. If they do, at least tie it to the main story at this point. Like, make them fight the Realm Scourge. Don't just make a side story that has no relevance to anything. God,
Yeah.
could be so much better. They could be like the Veritas units of this world. If you know, to be like War Division's lore version of the Veritas units, and they're just like not. They just do nothing. But yeah, this is another good question that we were talking last week on Jaden's release that we said he was complicated to newer players, and a lot of that had to do with, not only range issues but knowing the move down not working with the debuff weakening. It came down to obviously now thinking about this courage effect and how that affects some interactions. There's a lot of things in him that newer to average casual player may not be able to capitalize on, and the question is Yuna in the same boat? I think no. I think Yuna's likely a little more plug and play than Jaden is. I think she's got more natural utility and team fight impact that she brings enough things to the table, and as a light unit too, maybe a little more. I don't know, user friendly to some, just given what the mono element cards are there too and whatnot. But I think that her like follow up buff and what she does for the re race seal and the CT seal, like all of that seems to me like far easier. I don't think she has the same AI problems as him either in terms of like, his slot one buff doesn't buff a teammate unless it's a tank or, the move kicking in later. She still has some complications and wrinkles, but I don't think it's like Jaden's.
I think that her complications are the inherent like gunner complications where maybe it's not as easy for a newer player to recognize when, what are the best maps to use them on, for example, or the best placements on those maps or the right movement so that they're not exposed, for example. But Straylight in the chat asks, why is Jaden's decreased move sometimes, why does it sometimes work and why does it sometimes not work? And that's another reason why he's more complicated is because if you have any sort of debuff weakening in the party or on him, that decreased move gets basically zeroed out. So that's been a problem we've seen in manual PvP for a long and it's now kind of just getting put in the spotlight here with Jaden. So if you're using the Shinryu vision card, then that is the reason why he is getting that, or he's getting like a buff from
Right.
Exia. I think hers is a debuff weakening, I want to say.
Could be, yep.
So that could be another reason if she's buffing him first.
Right. And it's not that it's a bad thing, but you just need to understand that. There's actually many times where I don't mind him having the extra move, but that's got to happen with intention.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, for those of you coming late, apologies. I got the blue screen of death. It's so dumb. I can't believe it. I'm so mad because we were so close to wrapping things up anyway, but we only had a
It's all
couple
good.
couple things to button up here anyway. And this other last question is one that was asked by Iron or I'm sorry, Eric Ironsky last week, and we did kind of cover this already. It was the question around the Riku evade meta, And the answer is yes, we have seen things that counter this. The missile team does by nature of their very good accuracy, but even really strongly built Shrekas, it's not impossible to get it to enough levels of accuracy that that wind versus right now being mono Earth, those are the evade teams we're seeing. Shrek just does really well shutting her down individually, and I haven't heard anything about Garusa into that matchup. He does rely on his guaranteed hit, so maybe once the null sure hit kicks in, he's kind of cooked versus that team. But I would think he's accurate enough to at least hit Sadali. So even if he's not a slam dunk too, I think at least on JP, he probably still plays nice into the interaction. But Shrek is really the one that like neuters it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's with, I mean, Garusa is not very accurate.
No, no,
And certainly if he gets blinded, he's not going to be able to hit without, I think, and I don't think that he has, if I'm remembering correctly, he doesn't have courage removal, and Riku is a courage unit. So even if he does manage to use his 100% hit and kind of one taps her, courage will kick in, and then she'll have the null sure hit after that. So Shurika, I think, is the one that you really need to worry about because although she doesn't have courage removal, she's got the follow-up attack. So if she does manage to hit you, the follow-up attack is gonna finish her off. She does have unavailable pain also, which with her magic level, even the lower modifier still can do quite a bit of damage. We've seen that against Lucio. So yeah, there's existing counters like pretty much every unit they've been releasing. There's counters in the game. It's just a matter of getting the right combinations to alongside Riku to kind of cover against those.
exactly, exactly. But yeah, we figured at this point open it to some Q and A. And Cecil already has a great question here, and question is essentially, can you explain why uh, AOE wide resistance is still considered really good? And the long and short of that answer isn't necessarily that it's really good, but it's kind of a necessary component to have some of it somewhere, if possible, against some units. I know that sounds like the most lawyer esque answer ever, but once they introduced AoE resistance penetration into the game, in particular the penetration, the AoE crush certainly is a factor too, but once Cloud and Sephiroth and Sadali and all these units have AoE res pen, the value of your AoE resistance drastically changes. It's basically cut in half. So your 20 AoE res on the card is really only 10. Oh, why? Oh, I'm sorry. Cecil clarified. Why physical wide? Uh, I don't know if I
I
understand.
don't, yeah, I don't understand the question. There's either physical wide or magical wide.
Right.
There's no such thing as AoE wide. It's typed.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So this is good for those diamond physical attackers, which admittedly have fallen a little bit because it's really just like Sephiroth and Garusa that are really those diamond esque physical damage units at the moment. If you look at some of these other damage type physical dealers, they are more like Una, like a little more select two, a little more unit oriented. So we haven't seen the physical diamond units come out as much. Cypher and Cloud obviously were two of them early on, but they have kind of waned as well in terms of overall usage. But okay, so that's Cecil's point is that a lot of physical attackers are unit oriented. Yeah, I mean, it's a good take. I mean, we have not seen a lot of strong physical diamond units in a while. It doesn't make it less important to have in some cases. It still can be equivalent to AoE resistance against even cross shape attacks. Doesn't have to be large diamonds. That's where you get the most value out of it. But given the penetration levels, like even a cross shape still is roughly equivalent in some ways.
I
Yeah,
mean, Cecil, my answer would be that's going to be cyclical. That's going to be coming and going with the meta.
yeah,
So whether it's good or not depends on who you're going up against and who is being used widely at that time. I disagree that we haven't seen a lot of. I disagree that a lot of the physical attackers are unit oriented. I think they've mixed them in, depending on how they want to kind of puppet the meta. Because, like
right,
you said, the Greatsword team was all about the diamond AoEs. Then we kind of have gone into more maybe like maybe kind of the next month or two is going to be more unit oriented with the missile team, with Yuna, and like her follow up attacks. But Garusa is like something that physical wide is good against Garusa. He's got some big AoEs in his kit.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's all matchup dependent, like pretty much everything.
I could see why some might think of that take though, because when you think of units like even Ashen King Mont, notoriously a select two unit, and yeah, the new missile units that we're seeing, most physical damage dealers have started to go a little bit away from the diamond in particular, because even units like Riku right now and even Pain, I don't think either of them have diamonds in their kit. I think they're both like these like smaller cross shape at the largest, and so I can see why the I'm sorry, Riku does technically have a diamond, but we'll be spamming these other ones in smaller doses. That I can see why you might get that takeaway, but it is still pretty valuable. I think. Yeah. 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 That's a good one to talk to. Um, I
It's like so like in the past we had like our trinity of effects was always unit and area resistance and agility. And it's because they were universal. Like the new effects, they've kind of have cut them down so much that they're not universal. They're situationally good.
right.
I think why it's good on Yuna's card though is because you're going to want that 18% agility in your main slot already. So getting thrown in 20 physical wide is not something that I would typically prioritize in a main slot, but I'm going to get that automatically. So I think that's why it's good in that case.
Right, right. You're getting it for free. You're equipping that card for the agility, not for the wide
Right.
res. It just so happens that wide res is a consideration for a main slot vision card. And yeah, to your point, that is very matchup dependent. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, actually, when they released the Halloween Alaya card. That we were talking about someone like Ramada as a lightning unit. That this physical wide res at the time when Ramada came out, with Sephiroth was still a little more prevalent. That's just a flat 24% damage reduction against Sephiroth's diamonds. That's a exceptionally noteworthy damage reduction. It's not universal. Gilgamesh doesn't do anything against it, zero, but that's still like really important for that specific matchup. Yeah.
Yep.
No, good question. Anyone else? Yeah. Though unfortunately we are kind of wrapping it up. We did get toward the tail end of what we had for the agenda anyway. But at this point, for those of you that came back, we don't want to waste your time. If you have questions, you want to pick our brain, whatever you want to throw out in chat, anything you want. This is pure conversation, us with the viewers. I know.
So just while
Yeah.
we wait for some questions to come in, how have you been liking the limited Guild War so far?
It's the best one we've had in quite some time. So for those of you that we reset the brackets after Supremacy recently, and last bracket we got paired with Ashura, but this one we got paired with Chocobos, who's the number two guild in all of Global. Um,
Yeah.
Notoriously a very difficult for us to win against them. Like we've done well. We've come to some guild wars where we tied or came really close, but we got paired in the bracket. We were able to match with them day one, which was exciting because we had a favorable matchup. We're very much focusing on Agrius as our unit of choice, and it's been fun to build with her. We just had our rematch yesterday, which we've been sort of like planning for all week because the other teams just don't require the same amount of like theorycraft investment. And we had a really exciting Guild War fight with them yesterday. We did end up winning. We did a kind of a switcheroo on what we normally run, and you did a great job building a wall for us and did some shot calling. And Guild came together. It was probably the most engaging limited Guild War we've had in a while, where we normally want that game mode to go away because it's not that competitive. I still want it to go away, quite frankly, or at least change the matchmaking.
Yeah.
But out of all the limiteds, this has been better. Yeah, what about you?
It's been good thus far. Though I think that because we've been, able to match up against a great guild in Chocobos and kind of have a reason to kind of dig in and take it seriously, where usually we don't. Um, but yeah, it's been good. Although I do wish still that it was a different map. Still like carrying over the same one from normal Guild War, I think was a mistake.
Exactly. I do see a question here from Steven asking about the priority of units buffing each other. Confused how Lucia, which I don't. I think it's irrelevant to the question. If the question is talking about how buffing priority goes, it does always go by hate to determine who gets the buff priority. A unit will always move to a unit with the highest hate to apply a buff. If you can capture multiple teammates in it, great. If you can't, sometimes the buff will repeat depending upon the effects on it. Oh, Lucille. How Lucille's buff chooses priority. Yes, it's still hate. That's one of the reasons why Lucille's staff, which is negative hate on it, I'll bring it up for those that don't recall, is actually kind of a crucial piece of equipment for her. Where if you do not have the Blood Pearl Scepter on her, you can sometimes get into instances where she will buff herself when you don't want her to. But this giving her the -5 hate ensures that she buffs the other units because they have a higher hate priority than her. Yeah.
Yeah, so she'll basically act completely different with or without, this item on. Um, so like if you're trying to get her to haste turn one, like maybe you've seen a lot of players doing recently, if you don't have this item on, then she'll haste herself and then whoever the slot one is or whoever has the hate in the team. So make sure to put this farm this item and get this on her.
Yeah, really important. That negative hate, you can't make up for that.
Yep.
But yeah, all right. Well, I think that's all we got in terms of questions so far. I mean, I know we had a couple minutes here for people to throw some out, but I don't think I've seen any others really flow in. Are you excited for Grand Arena? KT7 did that video where we have a new UR item. We didn't even talk about that today. We'll talk about it, I think, once we know a little more. But um, yeah. Oh, Arc Blazer did. We'll get back to that at Grand Arena soon. Thoughts on the Christmas unit? We always talk about this. Predictions or thoughts or hopes. Anybody for the Christmas unit that you're really still digging in the bag for, hoping comes out?
I don't know. Like I've still like have been wanting to see another version of Nivlu, so I wouldn't mind seeing her again. Um, I don't know. Maybe maybe even like another version of Mons. Like it's been a while since I don't think
Bold.
we've never had a seasonal version of Mons, right? No.
No, we haven't. We haven't. I have two picks that I feel strongly about. One is my always default go to Whisper, year one unit who still never got 100 cost treatment, who is like a very, very clear, impactful lore character. She's literally in the current storyline at the forefront of the battlefield and like what's going on. Is the right hand person to Sadali. How she's never gotten a rerun for a second unit still is beyond me. I would love a Christmas version of her if she never gets a 200 cost unit. Um,
I
that's
was actually gonna bring her into that conversation of the New Year's unit. Like I felt like she's
yeah,
right there with Baruch and some of these other characters with how prevalent she's been in the recent storyline. So
I agree. I
yeah,
agree.
definitely underutilized, and I don't maybe she's just not that popular in JP. That I'm not sure, but I'm
I don't
not
know.
don't
She's on the vision cards, and Stern's very popular. So if they're shipping Whisper and Stern, which they kind of are, I would think people would like her by extension. I don't know.
I like her. I want to see it too.
Yeah, my Loki Hail Mary other one. Don't hate me, guys. Don't hate me. She's been in the storyline enough that I finally need a version. I'll do it. This unit is still like the leader of the Shinobi Corps. Beyond all comprehension, she somehow took the lead of the current Shinobi Corps, and that's her. And this unit was never good. It stunk. I don't love her character, quite frankly. But the fact that she's actually still relevant in the storyline and was given a commander position, put a winter outfit on her. Give it to her.
Yeah, she's definitely got the thick look going on,
Right?
but
If
yeah,
any,
I definitely did not like this character, at least especially the English voice as well.
no, if anybody screams 70 cost, it's her. Let her have it. um, did I see another question? I could have sworn we were talking about Lucille potentially still. Uh, okay, we're talking about it. Yeah, no, I think that's it. Winter Corwell, I love it. Um,
King Rob.
right. Straylight has a question. How to counter the Sadali Exia Lucille comp? If there's a way to counter that, I know there is. What comes to mind for you in countering that team?
Um, so
Actually,
you
okay.
can go to, I think we mentioned this last week, but we talked about Dario is actually if you get Dario and Shrek as a like a core, and then either give them sustain or like another solid DPS, that team can win against them. We talked about the Fang TMR is another like key against that team. Like Haste Dispel and the Fang TMR, you want to take away their speed factor. So that's like the tactical piece of kind of how you build your team. Another good thing to use could be Agrius, because it kind of limits what attacks that the AI is going to use, because they're going to always be trying to dispel the shell that's on the team.
Correct.
Um, and then obviously the status effects that Agrius brings too is can be beneficial. So those are a few ideas, but yeah, I think Wind is a good option because it hard counters Sadali and it's neutral against Exia. So that's probably your best bet.
That's a good call out. I've actually found in this last quick pick match, I struggled a smidge versus Gilgamesh, good old fashioned Gilgamesh. What I found was making sure that you can take out Exia rather quickly. You don't want to let her live too long, because she does have the so much CT up and self heal and like two allies. She can see, or is it her? I think that CT's up her ally. 1 second, or was it
Yeah,
Sadali?
yeah, she can.
Yeah, so like she's part of the reason that Sadali like laps you a billion times because that's part of her sequential ability there. In addition to the status effects of the slow and the unit crush, all that good stuff, I found that if you can take her out rather quickly, because she's not unkillable, her health pool does kind of like ping pong up and down, or what do you want to call it, yo-yo up and down. Gilgamesh did a half decent in accomplishing that goal, and at that point, it depends on the rest of your team. A lot of them were Agrius in that party, so she obviously was a contributor too. But I noticed out of all the damage units, he was one that I didn't expect.
Yeah, I mean, and then like if you have invested into the new Jaden unit, he's actually pretty good against
Very
that
good.
team. But
Yeah.
like Jaden plus Agrius, like 'cause Agrius can kind of go up front and she lives forever, you know. So I mean, it's against the Magic team, she does. But
Yeah.
and then Jaden can just pop off from the back, and that's only going to get better, once Yuna comes in. So that's another option there.
I agree. But all right. I think I'll probably end it here if you guys don't mind. We are approaching that 30-minute mark for the part two of the stream that after the discontinuation. But
The bonus stream.
yeah, the encore. We at least wanted to open the floor for Q&A though, but it doesn't seem like we're getting a bunch. But that doesn't mean you can't still ask it. If you want to leave it here in the comment before we go off or after the video, as you saw tonight, we're happy to still bring those up a week after the fact. So appreciate you all spending time with us tonight. Sorry for the technical difficulties earlier. A lot of fun stuff to still look forward to. We still agree that the game is in the best shape since third anniversary in terms of like meta and balance, and I'm excited to see what they come out with now with new units and seasonal units, and I think everyone feels pretty good about deals that they've gotten. Now we're just looking forward to regular Guild War again and some new maps to actually like really dig in and have some more fun with them and not be cost limited. But things are looking really good right now. I'm very happy.
Same. Yeah, and this I think you hit the nail on the head. There's stuff to look forward to here with Christmas coming up, and Final Fantasy 14 is going to be coming too. That's going to be interesting to see. That should be, within the next couple of weeks for JP. So it'll be fun to see what they do with those old units.
Definitely. But yeah, that's it for now. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next Monday, 9:15 Eastern, as always, and enjoy the week in the meantime. We'll talk.